At exactly 8:03 a.m., a homeless black man stood at the corner of Main and Crescent. Steam curled from the sewer grates, masking his breath in the morning chill. He didn't speak, didn't move, just waited. Then, like a crack in the calm, two squad cars swerved and slammed to a stop. Doors flung open. "Down, now!" barked an officer. The man dropped to his knees, coat sagging off one shoulder. "Fits the profile," someone muttered. No explanation followed, just plastic cuffs and cold pavement. Pedestrians slowed. Phones came out. But no one spoke. Only glances, murmurs, and quickened steps. Just another arrest, they assumed, until something fell. A leather badge holder, worn, aged, slipped from his coat. An older woman's eyes narrowed. "Wait, is that?" she whispered. No officer noticed, but the camera did. Another man, clean-shaven in a suit, passed without pause. No questions, no cuffs. But this man, detained, judged, erased. As he was shoved into the back seat, the homeless man looked up. Calm. Focused. "You'll want to review today's shift briefing," he said. The taller officer laughed, but inside, someone scanned the schedule. A new commissioner. No photo, just a name. Unknown. Unseen. Until now. If you believe no one should be judged by their appearance, especially by those in power, type "justice" in the comments. Smash that subscribe and tell us where you're watching from. This story delivers one of the most powerful instant karma. The ending will leave you speechless. Years ago, Leon Ellis stood right here. Same precinct, same cracked floor tile by the bench. But back then, he was 17, falsely accused and cuffed without explanation. No legal guardian called, no apology offered, just a clipboard, a cold chair, and laughter from officers who didn't even see him as human. That night didn't destroy Leon, it focused him. Today, no one sees Commissioner, they just see Leon. A quiet man in a hoodie and worn-out boots, second-hand clothes, neutral tone, low posture. But Leon has learned the value of invisibility. It lets others reveal who they are, before they realize who he is. When asked what he does, he says, "I monitor blind spots," or "I specialize." In institutional clarity, the ambiguity makes people curious, but never cautious. And that's the trick. After that first arrest, Leon didn't march or shout. He studied, worked 3 jobs to afford night school, took public transit across town to volunteer at legal aid clinics. He passed the bar, earned 2 federal appointments, rewrote city policy, and still had to take care of his little sister after their mother passed. His name rarely made headlines, but it was stamped on every meaningful reform that actually stuck. Leon's hardest challenge wasn't the system, it was being dismissed while transforming it. People copied his work and took the credit. He walked into rooms he redesigned and still had to wait in the hallway. The very people who resisted change now use his templates to look progressive, and Leon let them. Because ego doesn't change institutions, strategy does. Sergeant Briggs, the same officer who once slammed Leon into a wall, now smiles on local news segments. He has no idea the man sitting quietly near the front desk holds authority over his record. Leon watches him move through the precinct like he owns it, charming when cameras are on, cold when they're off. Leon had to fight for space in every room, in court, in city council, in his own department. He's been mistaken for a janitor, a defendant, a passerby, never the decision maker. And yet, he is. This morning, a white man in cargo shorts wandered in. No ID, no appointment. Staff offered him coffee. Leon, who'd been waiting longer, was ignored. Because in this city, if you don't look the part, you better know how to rewrite the script. Ever been judged before a word left your mouth? Ever watched someone else be treated better just for looking different? If that's ever been you, drop a comment below. The cuffs click again, tighter this time. Officer Briggs pulls them with deliberate force, smirking as he leans in just inches from Leon's face. "Next time, dress like you belong," he mutters. His breath reeks of control disguised as procedure. Leon doesn't respond. He's been here before, not in this moment, but in this energy, where authority plays God in plain sight. Briggs waves over a young clerk. "Run him again. He's not who he says he is," he says, loud enough for everyone to hear. It's theatre now. Leon remains still, shoulders squared, gaze soft. He doesn't offer clarification because he's not here to explain himself. Not yet. Then it happens. Briggs turns his back for a moment. Leon lifts his chin slightly, locking eyes with a young officer by the wall. No words pass between them, just a slow, deliberate nod. She tenses. Recognition flickers behind her professional mask. She knows who he is, but says nothing. Tension spreads across the lobby like smoke. Phones are out. One woman, who'd been recording, slowly lowers hers, disturbed, unsure. A man near the exit edges closer to the wall. No one understands what's wrong. They just feel it. "He's got priors," someone whispers. "I think he's playing the victim," another adds. It's all speculation, born from bias, no facts. Just the shape of his coat, the shade of his skin, the silence he refuses to break. Briggs tries again. "You need to cooperate. Otherwise, this gets escalated." He speaks like he's still in control, like this is still routine. Leon turns his head slightly and replies, "You already have." The words land hard, not loud, not fast, but heavy. A sentence that pierces the space. A man in a dress shirt, standing off to the side, takes one step forward, then stops. He looks at Leon, visibly wrestling with something, then slowly retreats. Not everyone is ready to choose sides. Then, Leon finally speaks, his voice low and even. "I suggest you check the morning's internal dispatch memo," Briggs scoffs. "Why? You think you're important?" Leon doesn't answer. He doesn't need to, because somewhere, in a locked office, a document with his name sits waiting, one that will change everything. If you've ever held your ground when someone tried to shrink you, drop a in the comments and hit subscribe. Briggs steps forward, his voice raised for everyone to hear. "You want special treatment? This is law enforcement, not charity." The sentence slices through the lobby, loud and defensive, like he's performing for a jury only he can see. The eyes of the room shift, but Leon Ellis remains composed, back straight, wrists bound. He doesn't answer, doesn't blink. Stillness is his resistance. The air changes. Conversations stop mid-sentence. Phones freeze mid-recording. Even, the receptionist's keyboard goes quiet. Aggression has entered the space like smoke. Thick, unspoken. Everyone feels it, but no one speaks. They're waiting, not for order, but for explanation. Something isn't adding up. Leon finally speaks, his voice calm and resolute. "I haven't broken any law." It's not a plea. It's a statement. A man who's testified before congressional committees would know how to deliver truth without volume. His words don't rise. They land. As he shifts slightly in his chair, the edge of a wristband peeks out from beneath his sleeve. Most don't notice, but the camera does. One woman in the back of the room notices too. Her eyes narrow. It wasn't an ordinary wristband. It was federal, clearance level, the kind only given to officials most precincts never meet. A whisper cuts the room like a paper slice. "I think I've seen him before. Maybe at the courthouse?" The rumor spreads, subtle but electric. A hush falls over the seats again. Now, no one is sure what they're looking at. Leon no longer fits their assumptions. The rags, the silence, the stillness. It might have all been something else entirely. Across the room, an off-duty black officer watches. His jaw is tight, fists clenched. He's seen this too many times. Men who look like him crushed under the guise of protocol. He takes one step forward and stops. Fear still whispers. Not yet. The room splits in two. Some tilt toward discomfort, sensing something is off with Briggs. Others double down, convinced Leon deserves the scrutiny. Their stares say it all. If he isn't resisting, why isn't he explaining? Leon doesn't. Because explanation is a privilege he's seen weaponized too often. His silence forces them to fill in the blanks, and every wrong assumption they make is a line they won't be able to erase. A Latina officer walks past. She slows. Her eyes flick to the wristband. Recognition flickers, then vanishes behind her blank expression. She doesn't speak, but her shift in posture says everything. She knows. Leon crosses one leg over the other, the edge of a folder sliding slightly into view beneath his coat. The precinct logo peeks out, upside down, but visible. Bold text, stamped across the seal, reads, Commissioner Ellis, Oversight Division. No one sees it, except the camera, and maybe the woman by the vending machine, now staring a little too long. Briggs senses something. He just doesn't know what. He tries to reassert control, voice straining. You think being quiet makes you innocent? Then louder to the bystanders. Do not engage. He's resisting questioning. But the more he speaks, the more it sounds like panic. Someone laughs. Bro thinks he's in a movie. It sparks. Uneasy chuckles from a few nearby, but no one's really laughing. The tension is too thick, the mockery too forced. Briggs gestures sharply to a nearby officer. Move him to the holding room. It's an attempt to isolate, to erase the moment. But too many phones are out now. Too many eyes recording, not just with cameras, but with memory. From the back of the room, a voice rises, soft but firm. If you need a witness, I'm here. Leon doesn't turn to look, but he hears. He nods once, controlled, acknowledging the shift without drawing attention to it. Briggs slams the desk, voice cracking. This isn't up for debate, but he knows he's already lost the room. The silence isn't passive anymore. It's deliberate, active. The crowd may not speak, but they're no longer with him. Staff members move around Leon like he's radioactive. No eye contact. No contact at all. They're unsure. He no longer feels like a suspect. He feels like a mistake. And nobody wants to be the one who made it worse. Then Leon's phone vibrates in his coat pocket, just once. He pulls it out slowly, lifts the screen just enough to read the single word that flashes on it. Ready. He sets the phone down on the bench beside him, looks up, and waits. Briggs leans in, closer than protocol requires, closer than any excuse could justify. His hand brushes Leon's shoulder, not firm, not aggressive, just intentional. Just enough to send a message. You people never learn subtlety, he mutters, a whisper of poison wrapped in professionalism. Leon doesn't move, doesn't flinch. But 3 phones are already rolling, and the camera sees what words don't say. Briggs turns to the crowd like a conductor demanding applause. He's obstructing processing, he announces. His voice is louder now, aimed at ears. Not ears of reason, but of assumption. There's no law cited. Just accusation, just tone, just spin. Still seated, Leon finally speaks. I asked for fairness, not favor. The words are light, but the truth in them weighs the room down. Some shift, some look away, but no one can say they didn't hear. Leon rises, slowly, walks toward the exit. Briggs watches, smug. But halfway there, Leon stops, turns, walks back to the same seat and sits again, calm, centered. He doesn't need to say anything. That walk said everything. Briggs slams the desk. Sit down! His voice cracks as he lunges forward, hand outstretched, not to guide, but to intimidate. This time, everyone sees it. A gasp from the crowd. That's not okay, a woman says. Another adds, he didn't even do anything. The crowd begins to see not a disruption, but dignity under attack. Leon locks eyes with Briggs. You just made a mistake. A public one. Two people step closer to Leon. A phone rises, openly now. The shift has begun. Leon adjusted his posture, just slightly. Shoulders squared, feet firm on the ground. His gaze didn't waver. I've tolerated enough, he said, not raising his voice. This isn't accountability, it's theater. The words weren't dramatic, they were decisive. And something shifted. It wasn't audible, but it was real. The kind of silence that signals authority has changed hands. Briggs puffed out, his chest, but his voice landed off balance. You're playing games with us. You people always think the rules don't apply. The moment it left his mouth, the weight of that "you people" started to sour the room. The power he thought he had slipping. The room didn't erupt, it realigned. Eyes that had followed Briggs now turned to Leon. Phones stayed up, steady. The crowd had moved from watching a scene to watching a man. Not just any man. Leon. The silence was no longer passive. It was bearing witness. Leon reached slowly into his coat, not abrupt, not secretive. Just calm. He pulled out a secure device, tapped the screen once, and typed a single word. Proceed. Then closed it, like closing a conversation only he was invited to. Something had just been set in motion. A janitor rolled past, mop buckets squeaking, softly. Leon reached down, slipped a folded note into the back corner of the cart. Give this to Sergeant Rivera, he said. The janitor nodded once. No hesitation, no surprise, just protocol. It looked like nothing. But one officer across the room saw the exchange. Her brow furrowed. Her posture shifted. Something about this man didn't add up. Briggs sensed it too. The room no longer felt compliant. It felt attentive, not to him, but to Leon. Who are you talking to? He barked. The demand felt desperate, hollow. Leon didn't respond. He didn't need to. From the corner, a man stepped forward, mid-40s, glasses, plain suit. I work upstairs, he whispered, leaning just close enough. Need me to take a statement? The offer wasn't loud, but it was serious, and it was enough to fracture the illusion Briggs had built. Leon turned toward the room, not just Briggs, but everyone watching. This was never about procedure, he said, voice even. It was about perception. That line stopped the room. Even the supervisor in the back, who'd been quietly reviewing files, set his tablet down. No one replied. They were too busy replaying every assumption in their heads. Briggs tried to claw back the narrative. People like him always think they're owed something, he muttered. But this time, he said it too loud, too clear. There was no hiding behind professionalism anymore. No one gasped. No one yelled. But no one stood beside him either. A wall had quietly gone up between Briggs and everyone else. And that wall wasn't built with noise. It was built with realization. Leon turned back to Briggs, eyes steady, jaw firm. You forgot something. He gestured slightly toward the doorframe. A red light blinked steadily above it. Recording. The surveillance feed had been live the entire time. Briggs turned pale. His jaw tightened, his body froze, but he said nothing. Because for the first time, he realized this wasn't an ordinary complaint. It was documentation. It wasn't about resistance. It was about record. Everything, every word, every touch, every glance was no longer theirs to frame. It belonged to the truth, and the truth had receipts. Did you see the shift? When silence moved sides? When power didn't raise its voice, but still took the room? If that hit you, comment, it's turning, and hit subscribe. The room holds still. Radios go silent. No typing. Even the hum of conversation dies mid-breath. The precinct becomes a vacuum. Every breath suspended. Every movement paused. Something is shifting, and no one dares interrupt it. From the back, a tall woman in plain clothes steps forward. No badge, no introduction. just the quiet confidence of someone who doesn't need to be announced. She adjusts her blazer, taps a discreet earpiece, and stops beside Leon. She doesn't look at him, but everyone knows. He's not alone. Leon sets his phone screen down on the bench. A red light pulses, then vanishes. Briggs sees it. "What are you doing?" he asks, voice lower now. Leon's eyes stay forward. "You'll understand in about 5 minutes. What will you do if you find yourself in this situation? You are going to take action. Hit the subscribe button. He hasn't moved once. You don't think he's somebody?" The clerk didn't mean for the whisper to carry, but it did. It wasn't sarcasm anymore. It was concern, wonder wrapped in uncertainty. The room, once confident in its judgment, now trembled under doubt. The tall woman in plain clothes moved forward. Silent. Intentional. She stepped beside Leon and handed him a sealed folder. A glint flashed from her belt. A federal badge, gold-trimmed and quiet as a signature. Then she stepped back, without a word. Leon opened the folder, removed a slim black tablet, and tapped the screen. The precinct's wall monitor blinked to life. A video began. No context, just footage, grainy, but sharp enough to recognize faces. Briggs's voice echoed through the room, loud, vulgar, unchecked. "You think I care what the report says? You think they'll believe you?" He was on screen, in uniform, threatening a young black man behind a closed door. The room gasped. The room remembered. 2 more officials entered through the side door. No rush. No need to announce themselves. Their very posture parted the crowd. One scanned the space. The other stopped at the center and spoke without theatrics. "This is Commissioner Leon R. Ellis, newly appointed by the Office of Civil Oversight." For a second, the room didn't blink. Then someone muttered, "Wait, Commissioner?" The woman who had been recording gasped. "I knew I'd seen him before. He was at the Justice Summit last fall. He gave the closing keynote." Leon stood, slowly, without drama. "I've been quietly reviewing this precinct's conduct," he said. "Unfortunately, today became part of that audit." His voice didn't accuse. It revealed. Briggs stumbled back. "I didn't know. No one told me." The words weren't defensive. They were hollow, stripped of authority. Now he sounded small, like the power had drained out through his boots. The taller official raised a hand. "Effective immediately, all precinct operations are frozen pending internal review. Officer Briggs, surrender your badge and weapon." Leon didn't gloat. He didn't glance at the crowd or smile for the cameras. He simply handed the nearest officer a sealed envelope. "Start here," he said. Inside were 6 months of findings. Dates, names, patterns, facts. A third official stepped in, holding a white case file labeled with federal seals and timestamps. "This contains signed affidavits, synced surveillance, and audio logs." She didn't explain further. She didn't need to. Briggs tried to speak again. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." But it wasn't directed at anyone. And no one looked his way. No one reached out. Someone clapped, soft. Then another joined. Then stillness. The clapping wasn't for drama. It was for closure. Leon's voice carried again. "You didn't fail because I fooled you. You failed because you never asked who I was." Briggs, now sweating, tried to walk toward the back exit. An agent stepped in his path. "Remain here. You're under federal review." The tone wasn't loud. It was final. The lead official didn't delay. "Officer Briggs, your employment is hereby terminated. Effective now." Before Briggs could process it, another woman stepped forward. "You'll be meeting with the federal committee this afternoon." She let the word federal linger. It didn't sound bureaucratic. It sounded biblical. Briggs turned, searching for allies. None of his colleagues stepped forward. One even took a visible step back. Leon scanned the room. He nodded toward those who had filmed, those who hadn't looked away. Sometimes silence saves lives. Thank you for not stopping. He didn't mean it as a grand quote. He meant it as fact. He passed the lobby wall on his way out. A glossy poster hung near the entrance. City Leadership, Oversight Division. The name, Commissioner Leon R. Ellis. The photo, clean suit, calm face, the same one they arrested hours ago. By the exit, the young Latina officer stood in quiet stillness. She didn't salute. She didn't speak. She just nodded. Leon returned it. Silent, firm, understood. Some truths need no ceremony. Then, just before stepping outside, Leon's watch buzzed. A secure message glowed across the small screen. This wasn't personal revenge. This was procedural reform. And today wasn't the end. It was activation. If that reversal gave you chills, drop it in the comments. Hit subscribe to stand with Quiet Justice. Leon folded his coat over his arm, moving with the same calmness he'd carried from the beginning. As he turned toward the door, a young man, one of the bystanders who had filmed it all, approached, hesitant. "I've never seen someone win without yelling," the young man said, still clutching his phone. Leon smiled softly. "No words necessary. Because when silence is earned, it doesn't need to compete for attention. It defines it." The footage spread fast. Not just the clips from phones, but the precinct's own internal feed, unlocked and leaked within hours. Headlines tried to catch up. Homeless black man? No, he's the city's top cop. But the real power pulsed in the comments. This is how leadership handles hate. He didn't raise his voice once. That's strength. For days, Leon declined interviews. Until one morning, seated before a plain backdrop, he spoke into a single camera and said, "Power isn't volume, it's vision." Then he stood and walked out. No follow-ups, no applause. He didn't need it. Later that week, a letter appeared on the city's public website, digitally signed by Leon R. Ellis. It didn't condemn, it guided. And at the bottom, it read, "If they can't see your worth, stay still. They'll see it when it matters." The post was bookmarked thousands of times, screenshotted, framed in homes. 2 weeks passed. Then Leon returned to the same precinct, now in full uniform. His badge clipped neatly at his belt. The same bench, the same front desk, but not the same moment. The officer who once glanced past him now stood to attention. "Welcome back, sir." Leon nodded once, same face, different reception. Elsewhere in the city, a small seminar unfolded quietly in a repurposed community center. At the back of the room, without a badge or uniform, sat Briggs, hair slightly longer, eyes tired. No one acknowledged him. No one scorned him either. He just sat, notebook open, listening. And maybe, just maybe, that's where change begins. Not with volume, but with stillness. Hours later, Leon entered a private government building, nodded to security, and stepped into a secured briefing room. A single file sat on the table, the label stamped in red. Oversight expansion, National Cities Initiative, Phase 2 activated. What they thought was personal justice was merely proof of concept. As Leon exited the building, a young intern chased behind him, breathless. "Sir, how do you make people listen without saying much?" Leon didn't slow, didn't turn. "You don't make them," he said. "You show them." Then the car door opened and he was gone. If quiet justice speaks louder than anger, drop a comment. Legacy lives in silence. Hit like, subscribe, and tell us what moment in this story shifted something inside you.